What's going on YouTube? So when it comes to big luxury, there is nothing more luxurious than a full-size luxury SUV. One of the newest entries into this segment is the BMW X7, which was first introduced in 2018, and now for 2023, BMW has extensively refreshed their largest SUV with all the latest design elements and features to match the upcoming 7 Series sedan arriving later this year. So is BMW's flagship SUV even better than before? Let's go ahead and find out. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, the X7 is really getting a lot of the design elements that we're getting ready to see in the upcoming all-new 7 Series rolling out in the US. So as such, you are going to notice it does have quite a substantially different look than last year. So let's go ahead and kind of break down some of those elements. As far as the grille itself, this part is not new. It's actually going to be the same size as before, which is quite large. We do have the M Sport version, so that's going to black everything out as opposed to chrome, and it is also going to make this lower fascia quite a bit more aggressive. Now that I'm down here, I do also want to take just a second to mention that we have a standard 8.7-inch ground clearance. However, we do have an air suspension on board, so that is fully adjustable. But let's get to what is the biggest difference for 2023, and that's got to be the new headlight cluster. So as you can see, this has implemented the new split design element, which is probably a controversial element, but we do have the daytime running light and turn signal indicator up here at the top, and then down below in a separate housing we have our LED headlights. Of course, these are going to be fully adaptive as you'd expect for a flagship vehicle, and both of the bulbs do serve as the low beam and the high beam as well. However, you won't find any fog lamps. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about our wheel options. Now, as you would expect for a BMW, we do have a ton of different options. What you'll be looking at is standard 21-inch alloy wheels. When you choose the M Sport package like we have today, you'll get this option right here with the contrast finish. We do also have the really nice looking blue brake calipers. And you do have, like I said, a variety of options, including 22, and even now for 2023, a 23-inch wheel option. Now, as we rise up to the mirrors, we are, of course, going to have every feature you can put on a mirror. So we have standard heating, standard blind spot monitoring, power folding, and auto dimming.
All right, guys, now it's time to talk about the side and rear design of this refreshed BMW X7. Now, as you can tell probably just by looking at it, there's not going to be very many cosmetic changes when it comes to the side design of the X7. Most of those changes are going to be focused up in the front. We're still looking at 203.3 inches in overall length, which is a good size for this category of vehicle. It is, of course, going to be a little bit less than Escalade, but right on par with the German rivals. Now, as far as some of the design elements, we're going to have blacked out window surrounds as well as a blacked out roof rail up in the very top part, since we do have that M Sport model, and we do also have it on the lower areas, and it kind of goes around into the rear. And speaking of the rear, let's go ahead and talk about that. There have been some changes to the rear design of this X7, although not vastly substantial. I don't really think it needed to change because this was one of my favorite designs in the segment. So let's go ahead and break down some of those changes. So up here at the top, we do have an exposed rear wiper. This is actually interesting that it's not hidden for a luxury vehicle, but if we drop down to the lower area, this is where you're going to start to see some changes. The taillights do have mostly the same look as they did pre-refresh. That said, they are a little bit slimmer than they were before, and they do also have some fancy designs in the side. As you can see, there's some etching going on that gives it a nice premium look, and it is congruent with what you'll see inside the cabin as well. Now, if we drop down to the lower area, since we do have the M Sport model, we're going to have an aggressive rear diffuser, and since we do have the 40i model, that's going to mean we have the dual trapezoidal exhaust outlets. If you go for a M60i model, that will actually get you quad exhaust outlets for that sportier look. That said, I'm very happy that BMW has left the exhaust pipes on this model because a lot of the brands are getting rid of the exhaust pipes, and I do like the traditional look of having exhaust pipes. Now, as far as your tow rating is concerned, we're looking at 7,500 pounds on all of the models. Now for your safety systems for 2023, BMW has given you more of them as standard equipment. So you're going to, of course, have the full suite on most of the X7 models. So it's going to be forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, auto high beams, as well as adaptive cruise control. And you're also going to have a traffic jam assistant as well to help with those traffic jam situations. Now, as far as your warranty, you're going to look at BMW's signature warranty, which is 4-year, 50,000-mile basic and powertrain. BMW is also throwing in 3 years and 36,000 miles of complimentary maintenance, which is pretty rare for a German luxury vehicle. But guys, that's going to wrap up the refreshed exterior design. Now let's check out the refreshed interior before we take it out for a spin.
So walking up to this updated X7, you will of course find a standard smart entry system. However, you're probably noticing we've got a new key fob I've yet to see on any BMW model. It's made of metal and piano black. We also have remote start built into it, and it has a nice shape that feels good in the hand. Now to get inside the vehicle itself, of course, you're just going to reach behind the handle that will unlock the door and fold the mirrors out. So as you can see, when you peek inside, you do get an animation and a little sound effect to greet you. And there's a quick look at the cabin as a whole before we climb inside and check out all the details. Now there are quite a few updated elements of this interior, but first of all, let's go ahead and start off with our interior color and material selections. So you do have a new Sensafin leatherette on board with a special quilting detail. This is actually the standard seat, even though, as you can tell, it looks very, very nice. As far as the quality of this leatherette, it's very good. Definitely a super realistic feel to it. Very comfortable seat, and like I said, the overall stitching design makes this look very upscale. Now you can, of course, continue to get optional merino leather if you want the real thing. And that's available in a lot of different color options, including white ivory, tartufo, and a new Atlas gray and white combination. Now turning over here to our seat controls, you will find a standard 16-way power adjusting seat. You also have the availability of a 20-way seat that also has massaging in the executive package. Now looking up here at our door trim, we do have a nice leather material across the armrest, through the middle, and along the very top. Nice metal door handle here. You have standard memory seats, of course, and then down below you have your 4 fully automatic windows. As we move to our upper dash, you do have a full leatherette covered one with a stitching detail. We also have a large piece of real open pore wood that runs through here. You're also noticing one of the interesting new features of this updated cabin, and that's the fact that we have this ambient light bar. This actually plays animations when you enter and exit the cabin. The vents themselves are a little bit different looking this year, and as we continue to the center console, we have more generous use of this beautiful open pore wood with leather along the side and our ambient lighting. Now to start it up, you'll continue to find your push button start mounted right there. Now, right as soon as I fire the model up, you will be greeted with one of the biggest updates for 2023, and that's this new dual 12.3-inch display setup, which has that same floating design we've seen in some of the newest BMW models, including the iX. But focusing here on the gauge cluster first, of course, you do have some new graphics on board. This is highly customizable, as you'd expect. So we can go over here and choose between several different layouts, which can be very futuristic looking depending on what you want to choose. You can also customize other things, including our standard head-up display. So as you can see, this is a very large, very vivid head-up display, and like I said, highly customizable as well with all the information you're going to want to see. Now, I do want to point out that these flashing lights you see on the outside, this is something that only the camera picks up on. The human eye cannot actually see. Those are the sensors that are monitoring my face for all the available driver's assistance features. Now pulling back here to the steering wheel, we have one of my favorite steering wheels in the auto industry. This is the M version, since we have the M Sport model. You do also have a 4-spoke version on the other trim levels. But this one does have the nice leather-wrapped airbag cover. It is, of course, going to be heated as well as standard equipment and power adjusting. And I should mention, in addition to the heated steering wheel, you do also have heated armrests. But I want to go ahead and take a second to check out the interior storage, because this is a big luxury SUV. You're probably going to haul around your family. And looking inside our center console here, we do have a pretty nicely sized one. It has a nice rubber lining at the bottom, felt lining on the sides. It's illuminated, and we do have a USB-C port inside. But of course, we use our standard metric of coupon testing, and we'll throw that in there, and that does fit just fine in this luxury crossover. And up in front of that, we do have a little cubby that you can just release that piece of wood. And as you can see, plenty of space in there as well. And I do want to point out that we've got a wireless phone charger. It is back for 2023 as standard equipment. This right here is what your digital key looks like, by the way. And there you've got your USB and your 12-volt outlet and 2 cup holders. Now, as we pull back to the shifter area, you're going to notice that it looks quite a bit different than last year. That BMW shifter you've been used to seeing for all these years is actually gone, and in its place we have this very small nub-like shifter. We also have the optional glass control, so as you can see, it is finished fully in glass. And operation is very simple. You're just going to press back for drive. You do have paddle shifters on the steering wheel, and then you'll press forward for reverse. Now when you go into reverse, most models will be greeted with this 360-degree camera system. As you can see, very nice resolution on board, as you would expect. We also do have a lot of different views that we can choose between, including everyone's favorite, the 3D view. So if you go into this view, we can use the controller here on the dash to go all around the vehicle, well, in full 3D view like I was mentioning. And the lights and everything do match with the vehicle itself, so it's a very nice touch. And then for park, you're just going to press the P, and you do have the electronic parking brake right behind that. Now in this area of buttons, we do have the controller for our air suspension height adjustment. We also have our knob that we can control the infotainment system with if we don't want to touch it. And then as we rise on up, the next place we come to are our volume knobs. So you do have 3 different sound systems on board, a standard 10-speaker sound system, or an available 16-speaker 464-watt Harman Kardon sound system. That's what we have on today's example. This is the middle tier. You also have a further available 20-speaker 1500-watt Bauer and Wilkins sound system. But like I said, let's go ahead and sample the middle tier. As you would expect, the sound quality is absolutely fantastic, and you only need to go for that Bowers & Wilkins if you are a super audiophile. Okay, so let's go ahead and rise above that and start to take a look at our display. Now you may be wondering, where are the climate controls? Because they previously used to be down here. Those are actually going to be baked into the display itself for 2023. So down here at the bottom, this is how you're going to adjust your temperature. Most of the time, you'll just leave it in, automatic mode like it is right now. You won't have to do anything else. But if you want some additional functions, you're going to press the climate menu. That's going to bring up all the things that we don't have physical buttons for anymore. So you have the button for your heated steering wheel, your heated and ventilated seats. Heated seats are going to be standard. Ventilated seats are going to be optional as part of the climate package. Now, speaking of the climate package, if you choose the climate package, that will get you upgraded from the standard 4-zone automatic climate control to the available 5-zone automatic climate control, which Mason will talk about a little bit later in the video itself. And let's go ahead and talk about the display itself. So this side is going to actually be a little bit bigger than that side. This side is 14.9 inches, and it does have a little bit of a curve to it, which makes it focused slightly on the driver. This is also running the latest iDrive 8 system. So as you can see, we do have really nice looking graphics, very vivid, very crisp, and fast performing. Additionally, we've got some features on board you'll probably like to know about. For instance, we do have wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay abilities as standard equipment. Now, iDrive 8 is quite complicated, so I won't go through every feature in this video, but I do want to point out we do have that personal assistant baked into the system itself, and this is what the built-in navigation system is going to look like. Now, rising on up here, we do have a standard frameless auto-dimming mirror with 3 HomeLink universal remotes. As we move up to the top here, I'll open up our standard panoramic sunroof. As you can see, this is a very large piece of glass that goes all the way to the second row. However, we do also have a dedicated third row second panel in the back as well. So this is certainly a very nice looking panoramic setup. You can also option on to get what BMW calls Sky Lounge, which will project LED patterns into the sunroof itself.
Well, guys, it doesn't get much better than spending time in the BMW X7's rear seat. Holy moly, am I comfortable. This is an amazing, amazing place to spend time. So I'll go ahead and start by talking about the space first, and then we'll dive into the features. There are a lot of features, so it's going to take a little while to get through that. As far as the space is concerned, we're looking at 37.6 inches of legroom, 39.9 inches of headroom. If you're curious as to how that compares with its competition, if you're looking at something like an Audi Q7, you're going to be right on par with that. It is less than the Mercedes GLS, though, for reference. It could be a little bit more space, in my opinion. Now, as far as the features, though, that's really where this X7 excels, because this is incredibly, incredibly comfortable. So let's go ahead and turn our attention towards the center area. So right here we do have our vents. It's going to be finished in nice piano black all through here. If we drop down below that, that's where we're going to find our climate controls. It is standard 4-zone automatic, so each passenger back here can adjust their own temperatures independent from one another. And if you look off to the side of that, we're also going to have 3-stage heated rear seats. That isn't actually an option on this X7. Below that, we have a little storage cubby. It actually goes back a good distance, so you can put quite a bit of stuff in there. We have a 12-volt outlet as well as 2 USB Type-C port, as well as some cup holders integrated here in the floor in a nice convenient location. Now, we're not done yet with the connections, though, because in the seat backs, we do also have USB Type-C ports integrated there, which is nice that you don't have to go all the way down from the floor. And you're probably noticing this right here. The main thing about this rear area is that we do have captain's chairs, and these are incredibly, incredibly comfortable captain's chairs. So that is an option on this X7. It's not going to be like a standard feature or anything, but we do have nice quilted design. It's incredibly comfortable. We even have a pillow built into these captain's chairs. It's so, so comfortable, guys. And if you look over to the side, you'll notice that it's actually standard power adjusting, so you can adjust the seat however you want, just like you would the driver's seat. And you know, it has quite a lot of ways of adjustment, and you do even have power folding mechanisms, as we'll see as we head into the third row. Now, let's go ahead and turn to your door trim. If you go to your door trim, you're going to see that it's nicely finished. It's going to be leather on really every bit of it. So the upper part is going to be leather. Your armrest is going to be leather. We do even have some nice ambient lighting going through there. And you're also going to notice that there are a lot of different window switches, and that's because we do have rear window sunshades. They're going to be power, so you just press this little button right here. That's going to deploy your power rear window sunshades. And you do also have controls for the moonroof, shades and all that, so you can adjust that from the back seat in case you're getting chauffeured around like an executive. Now on the B-pillar, you do have your own vents, and that's going to pretty much wrap up the second row area, but there's a lot to show you in the third row, so let's go ahead and hop into that. So like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, this second row is going to be power. So in order to get back here, you don't have to do any type of manual folding or anything. You just grab this little lever right here. When you grab this little lever at the top, that folds the seat back forward and slides the seat automatically out of the way. It, as you can see, it has a whole mechanism. It tilts the seat up, folds it as much as it can, and gets it completely out of the way, so you can get into the third row very easily. Now, sitting in the third row itself. Well, I'm very comfortable here in the third row because we're going to have 33 inches of legroom, 36.6 inches of headroom. So this makes it one of the most spacious third rows you can get. I'd say this is not quite as nice as something like the all-new Escalade. I think that has a little bit nicer of a third row. That said, you're going to get a lot more amenities when you go for this X7. So let's go ahead and hop into that. So for one, you're seeing that I'm being blinded right now, and that's because we have our own third row moonroof. So that's a very unique feature to have your own moonroof for the third row. So the people here in the back are not going to be excluded from that open air experience. Now also on the roof, I don't know if Drew will be able to see it, but we have an entire panel here dedicated to controls. And I'm going to try and get out of the sun so I can actually see what it is. You'll notice that this is actually the same panel that you see in the second row. We have our own climate controls. So yes, if you're keeping track of that, we have 5 zones of climate in this X7, so we can adjust even the third row temperatures independently from the rest of the cabin. In addition to that, we also have 3-stage heated rear seats. Yeah, you heard me right. We have 3-stage heated third row seats. So my butt is nice and toasty, which is certainly nice for a chilly day like today, even in the third row. Now, we're not done yet with features because here on the armrest portion, if I get out of the way a little bit, you'll see that it's all nicely leather wrapped. We do have ambient lighting, leather wrapped armrest portion. We have a little cup holder. This honestly won't be able to fit much of anything. But we do also have integrated USB Type-C ports in the bottom area as well. So BMW really has you covered when it comes to features and luxury in this third row. It's exceptional. So walking up to the tailgate area, as you would expect out of a flagship luxury SUV, you're going to have a standard hands-free power one included, and it's also a unique tailgate design. So if I press this button, as you can see, it is a 2-part opening tailgate. So this part opens up, power, and you do also have this lower part that you can press. It's also going to power release and fold out. This is perfect for something like tailgating, so you can sit on this, really enjoy that afternoon. Now, as far as the space itself is concerned, we're looking at 13 cubic feet of cargo capacity behind the third row seats. If we fold them down, we're looking at 49 cubic feet, and then as a maximum, we're looking at 90.4 cubic feet of cargo capacity. Now, it depends on what you compare this X7 to. That is going to be a bit larger than Mercedes GLS. Of course, it is going to be quite a bit less space than something like a traditional American luxury SUV like Escalade or Navigator. Now, as far as the finishings, though, BMW has done top-notch with the finishings. So we do have a really nicely lined carpeting along the floor. We can lift that up. That has additional space up underneath of here. It's actually a lot larger than what you would expect. And then over here on the side, this is where you're going to find the panel to power fold the third row. This is going to have a standard power folding third row as you would expect. And I do really like how they've made this nice and simple. It has a button that says Max People or Max Cargo. So you can pick which one you want. I'm going to press Max Cargo. And as you can see, with that one press, everything is going to fold simultaneously. Really nice and easy. Thank you, BMW, for making this easy on us because a lot in the segment, you have to press and hold a button for a long time, and that really just doesn't work all that well. So I'm glad that BMW has made it nice and easy for the average consumer. Now your passenger seat is going to be the same as the driver, which of course is a lot of different ways of adjustment. You do even have power thigh extension. Then if we pop open the glove box, inside of here we're going to have a very nicely sized glove box. It's going to be really nicely felt lined. We have coupons inside. Today we're going to do Fazoli's inflation beating deals, because if you buy one of these X7s, you might have a pretty substantial car payment, so you might need to have a little bit cheaper. So $5 off your purchase of $10 or more. That's a really good deal, guys. And then up top, we have a nice sun visor. This is one of the nicest sun visors. I want to point out that it has stitching in addition to being nicely Alcantara lined. We do also have a mirror. It's really small, but we do have LED lighting inside, and we can also detach it and extend it out.
All right. Wow, feels pretty quick.
Yeah.
So this is the 40i model. So this is the base engine, but that's not to say that you don't have plenty of power on board. So as far as the engine situation, what you'll be looking at is a 3-liter turbocharged inline 6-cylinder. That's going to also be paired with a 48-volt mild hybrid system, and your total output is going to be 375 horsepower, 383 pound-feet of torque, which is up 40 horsepower from last year.
Wow. Yeah. It's just such a strong motor, yeah.
Pulls really strong. And you can just immediately tell as well this level of refinement. It is smooth. I mean, really, really nice and responsive engine that just feels smooth as glass.
Yeah, this is incredible. And if you're curious about a 0 to 60, we're looking at 5.6 seconds for this base motor. So if you're thinking, oh my goodness, well, maybe I need to upgrade and get the high-end motor, totally not necessary. Of course, it is a bonus because, let's go ahead and talk about that. The M60i model, you're going to be looking at a 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8, plus also the same 48-volt hybrid components, and you're looking at 523 horsepower, 553 pound-feet of torque. Of course, it goes 0 to 60 a little bit quicker at 4.5 seconds. Very unnecessary for a luxury SUV to go 0 to 60 that quick, but of course it is a little bit nicer, and we have driven a few of that BMW motor, that 4.4-liter twin-turbo. It's fantastic. So if you have the money and you really want that V8 growl, go for it, but not necessary, that's for sure.
Love the sound as well. It just sounds super nice. Inline 6-cylinders are just great engines in general, and BMW is really making one of the best here.
I want to take a second here to just talk about your ride quality, because this is a BMW X7 after all, so I don't want to leave you in suspense for too long about how this vehicle rides, because it really is one of the best riding vehicles money can buy. When we got in this car this morning, took it off the lot, we were like, woo! This is so smooth. I mean, you hit a bump and you're like, what bump? I mean, it just fully soaks it up, and it just reminds you of how comfortable certain levels of vehicles can be. I mean, this is just incredible that you can have a car this smooth. So every person in this vehicle is going to be awesomely comfortable, even in the third row.
Exactly, and we don't have the super upsized wheels on board. We've got just kind of the normal run-of-the-mill 21s. We've got a full air suspension. It really combines to make this just fantastic riding. So I'll go ahead and slow down to our usual 55 miles an hour and let Mason get our sound level reading.
Well, that's a pretty laughable reading right there. 51.9 decibels. Incredibly quiet, guys. That's... I don't know if... I think we've had one test a little bit lower than that, and that might have been in the Mercedes S-Class. So it goes without saying, it's going to be an incredibly luxurious experience in terms of your ride quality, and the noise entering into the cabin is basically non-existent. So really excellent job from BMW here. As far as like how it compares to a GLS, I think they're roughly equivalent to one another in terms of ride quality and sound level.
Now, as far as another aspect of the powertrain I haven't mentioned yet, that would be our 8-speed automatic transmission. I haven't mentioned it yet because it absolutely blends into the background. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but everything about this X7 just emphasizes smooth and refined. And the same goes for the transmission. You barely can even feel it operate at all if you're really focused on it. And additionally, you do also have standard xDrive all-wheel drive.
Right. And that does, of course, mean that you only have one fuel economy per engine. So the 40i model is going to be sitting at 21, 25, 22 miles per gallon. which is pretty good fuel economy for a vehicle of this size. For the M60i, you're looking at 18 miles a gallon combined, so honestly not as big of a fuel economy penalty as I would think for MPG. And of course, you be using premium fuel. This is a flagship luxury vehicle. As you would expect, you're going to have to pay at the pump a little bit more for that premium fuel.
So I just toggled into the sport mode. I know probably not too many people are going to be doing real crazy things in their 3-row ultra luxury SUV, but I did want to do that just to demonstrate the adaptability of the suspension, the steering. All those elements do get quite a bit more aggressive when you choose the sport setting. It's kind of getting on this on-ramp. It feels pretty balanced. Of course, there's going to be a decent amount of body roll still, but like I said, throttle response, steering as well is going to firm up.
Yeah, and if you go for that M60 model, you do have a little bit of benefits when it comes to the actually the way it drives, because BMW is going to be throwing in integral active steering and an adaptive roll stabilization. So talking about that body roll a little bit, this 40i does not have that feature, but the M60i, that more sport focus, has a little bit of an additional benefit that you can maybe reduce some of that body roll that you expect out of a 3-row luxury SUV. So if you want a little bit of a sportier vibe, that M60i, that might be worth it for you.
I do want to take just a second to mention the auto start stop system. 48 volt mild hybrid, that does mean it's not a full hybrid system, so mostly that's going to be used to power advanced auto start stop. And I have to say, compared to maybe a traditional auto start stop system that you may have experienced in another BMW product, when you add in this mild hybrid, it really improves things a lot, just like we've sampled in some rival German automakers like Audi and Mercedes. Really smooths things out. It allows the engine to sometimes shut off before you even come to a stop, and when you let off and you start to take off, it just really transitions things very smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I do also want to kick us off with our Slam Dunk and Airball. Of course, that's a signature element we have in every Car Confections review. And for our Slam Dunk, I think what it really has to be, of course, there are a lot of 2023 improvements, and whether you think the front end is an improvement, that's going to be up to your personal opinion. But I think still this vehicle's overarching Slam Dunk has got to be the luxury experience. It does such a phenomenal job. This and the GLS are incredible luxury vehicles. I mean, they just do everything so well. When you get in it, you're just like, now this is what luxury is like. And so that's really just has to be our Slam Dunk today.
Right. And then on the airball side of things, one tiny detail that I didn't really think was an improvement is sticking all the climate controls inside the display. I did like having the physical metal, those are really nice buttons before, and easier to use while you're driving.
And lastly, let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this 2023 X7. So you're going to start at a price of $77,850 for the 40i model. The M60i is going to ring in at a pretty eye-watering $103,100. Do keep in mind you get additional equipment other than just the motor. It's going to be pretty well equipped for that M60i model starting out. It's worth noting that's around a $4,000 price increase over the 2022 version of the X7. So you're going to see a little bit of a substantial price increase this year for the X7. Now this one you could say is lightly optioned. I guess not really lightly, but maybe mediumly optioned for an X7. We have a lot of options still, so that $77,000 starting price balloons all the way up to $92,025 for this model when you add in the $995 destination charge.
But in conclusion, if you guys are looking for an all-around excellent luxury experience, this BMW X7 continues to be a very strong choice.
Well guys, thanks so much for joining us on this in-depth review of the refreshed 2023 BMW X7. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would certainly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. Also tap the notification bell, because that's going to give you notifications on our most recent content. You won't want to miss out. We also have a TikTok and Instagram where we post shorter forms of content, so go and follow us there. And also support the channel through our merch store. We have a lot of really nice merchandise available for you guys to support the channel. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.